Welcome. My name is Julia Lozier. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the Assistant Director of Events for Enrollment Management here at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. And as you can see from my title there, I'm also a UMass alum, class of 2012. Both of my parents were also UMass alumni, so this is a really special event for me to get to be a part of. I feel like I'm representing the family well. And I'm very excited to welcome you to our Office of Parent Services panel this afternoon. We have some wonderful presenters, both current and former UMass Amherst parents and current and former UMass Amherst students. So we have a wonderful group. And before we get started, I do want to thank you also for taking the time to be here with us today. We have a great group of attendees and a lot of great content to get through. So before I officially get started with the panel and introduce you to our panelists this afternoon, I want to get a sense of who is in the room. So we're going to do some polling questions as well. So in just a moment, you'll have a chance to sort of engage with the presentation, let us know a little bit about yourself and your family and how you're feeling today. Before we do that, I'll just quickly go over a few housekeeping items, nothing major. Just want to let you know that we are using a webinar format, so you will continue to be muted and have your video off through the presentation. You don't have to worry about that. You can just sit back, relax, and enjoy. We don't have a live Q&A feature for today's webinar. Given the time, we've pre-selected a few questions that we will be asking our panelists that will give you a great insight into the UMass experience as a parent and as a student. So thank you for that. We are going to share contact information for the Office of Parent Services as well as the admissions office. So if you do have follow-up questions or additional information that you're looking for, you'll absolutely be able to get in touch with us and get all those questions answered. And I do want to recommend that you open up the chat feature and keep an eye on the chat because we will be sending out some links and additional resources to supplement the content of the presentation today. So you'll have a chance to open up those pages and take a look at them after if you'd like. And finally, this presentation is being recorded and it will be uploaded to our website in the next few days. So keep an eye out for that. You can take another look or you can share it with friends or family who might not have been able to join us live today. And then one other thing I just wanted to mention as part of my introduction is to give a little shout out to the ILC, which is the Integrated Learning Center, which is the building behind me. I'm not actually at the ILC. This is just a really good background. I'm in my office over here at the Whitmore Administration Building. But if you're curious, this is one of the beautiful learning spaces that we have here on campus. And nearly every UMass student, not all, but nearly all, will take a class in the ILC at some point during their UMass career because there are so many different departments that hold classes in this building. And what you're seeing behind me is sort of our open study space, and there's a little cafe there as well. So again, shout out to the ILC, one of our newer buildings on campus. So with that, I'm going to get started with our polling questions. And again, like I said, find out a little bit more about who's in the Zoom room with us today. So the first question that we have, and hopefully you should see that up on your screen now, is where are you living? So of course, this could be, where you're from. You may be in state for life like myself, or perhaps you've lived all over, but where are you coming from now? And our options are in-state, out-of-state, or international. So I see lots of answers coming in. Thank you everybody for participating. And this is great. We have right now, by my count, about 45 and 45% each for in-state and out-of-state, and the other 10% international. And that's a really nice representation that we truly have people from all over the world coming and joining us today, which is why I always feel a little funny when I say good afternoon, because again, maybe you got up really early to watch this, or maybe you are staying up late. So wherever you're coming from, whether it's afternoon or not, thank you for being here. And the next question that we have is if you are in state, so for my Massachusetts people like myself, where are you located? Berkshires, Western Mass, Central Mass, the Greater Boston area, or the Cape Cod and Islands area. I like to comment on this, that this does go to show that although about 75% of our, 65 to 70% typically of our student body is from Massachusetts. But this is definitely not like a commuter school where everybody's already from Western Mass and people just go home to their parents' house on the weekend. This is definitely somewhere where a lot of students are coming and this is their first time living away from home. They're exploring a new area. So yeah, it's not surprising to see that a lot of people that are living in state right now are from the greater Boston area, about 44%, about 10% from Central Mass, 3% from my stomping grounds, Western Mass, 413 for life, and then about 2% from Cape Cod and the Islands, and about 1% from the beautiful Berkshires. So again, even if you or your student are will be an in-state student, that doesn't mean that they're going to be, just with people from their high school. Like, they're going to have folks from all over Massachusetts, as well as New England, the entire country, and the entire world, in fact. So a great opportunity to get to meet people that have different backgrounds and different experiences. That was one of the things that I liked the most about my time at UMass. And the next question is a great one. How excited are you that your student has been accepted to UMass Amherst? I do see there's a little typo on the poll there. Sorry about that. Or maybe that's just on my end in the title, I think. Yeah. So the options are very excited, this is their choice, valid option as well, or no big deal. And I'm thrilled to see that most of the results are coming in at very excited, followed closely by excited. A couple parents taking more of the hands-off approach, this is their choice, and a couple, around 2%, no big deal. Again, all valid options, but I'm very happy to see that a lot of people in the room today are feeling very excited that their student has been accepted to UMass. And you're going to hear all about why you should be excited about that today. Okay, great. And one more polling question for you guys. What do you think your student is most excited about? We have some great options here. Enrolling in a school or college with outstanding academic programs, interacting and learning from distinguished faculty and staff, continuing to develop their love for learning in a diverse educational environment, getting involved in student activities and social justice issues, achieving learning and financial goals, the prospect of being the next change agent for their family, community, and nation, personal freedom, independence, leaving home, going out of state, making friends, or of course, we'd always be remiss if we didn't throw this in there, eating at UMass's #1 graded campus dining. So lots of great options and different reasons why you and your family might be excited about a UMass education. So I'll give just another moment for folks to answer this question. I know there's a lot of options to choose from there. All right, looks like the first option is getting a lot of traction, around 58% enrolling in a school or college with outstanding academic programs, and closely followed by developing their love for learning in a diverse educational environment, kind of like what we were just talking about earlier, with folks coming from all over the world, different backgrounds, experiences, different lifestyles and opinions, creates a great learning environment. And then of course, personal freedom, independence, all of that good stuff that comes along with going to college. So again, thank you so much everybody for participating in those poll results. It really does help us feel more like connected with everyone who's viewing, and hopefully vice versa as well. So we appreciate that. Before we do introduce our panelists and jump into the main content of the presentation, I do want to pause to say congratulations to everybody. No matter where you are in this journey, you have made it so far from the beginning of this process, starting to think about what colleges might be on your students list, maybe opening up that Common App website for the first time. A lot of work, sweat, sometimes tears goes into the process of getting your student accepted to college, and you did it. So let's pause and just like soak that moment in. You should all feel extremely proud of yourselves for making it this far in a process that is complex and stressful, but also really exciting and rewarding. So congratulations to you. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our panelists. They're going to wave hello to you as I let you know who's here. And then in a moment, you'll have a chance to hear all about where they're from, their student, or where they're at in life. So we'll start by saying hello to everybody. We have Andrew Ehrlich.
Welcome.
Aninda Bharat.
Oh, welcome.
Bernadette Carr,
Hello, welcome.
Gina Fishman, Amelia Buger,
Hi, welcome.
Emily, one of our current students, and James, another current student at UMass. And then we're also joined by the Director of the Office of Parent Services, Rose Boulay, who you'll hear from in a little bit. Awesome. So thank you so much, panelists, for joining us this afternoon and for sharing your perspective on your experiences as a UMass parent, student, or perhaps both. And again, I'd like to get started by just having everybody share a little bit more about themselves, and we will start with Andrew.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Andrew Ehrlich. We are from Smithtown, New York, which is Long Island. My son Joseph graduated in December, a little early, and he has a degree in economics and a business certificate. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Aninda?
Hello, everyone. I'm Aninda Bharat. I stay in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. My son Abhinav, he's a freshman. He's in the Commonwealth Honors College, and he's pursuing biomedical engineering. And welcome to all students and parents to this fantastic university.
Thanks, Aninda. Bernadette?
Hello, my name is Bernadette Carr. I live in Manchester by the Sea, Massachusetts. Our oldest daughter, Bridget, is a sophomore in public health. And our second daughter, our youngest daughter, Jessie, is a freshman. She's at Eisenberg and studying marketing. Welcome.
Thank you, Bernadette. Gina?
Good afternoon, good morning. Sorry about the technical difficulty early. I'm Gina Fishman. My daughter Charlotte is a sophomore in the College of Communication, leaning toward a film certificate with a minor in art, and I live out in Framingham, Massachusetts.
Awesome. Thanks, Gina. We're also joined by a young alum, Amelia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amelia. I graduated in 2018 with a dual degree in a bachelor's degree in international relations, human rights, which is a BDIC. So I designed that, and political science. And I'm currently in law school at the University of Pittsburgh School of Law, which is where I'm from, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Awesome. Thanks, Amelia. And one of our current students, Emily.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Emily. I'm a senior from Milford, Mass. I'm an education major with a concentration in special ed, and I'm getting a dual degree in Spanish. I'm also getting a certificate in a program in the psych department called Developmental Disabilities and Human Services. I've been involved in a few clubs on campus. I've been able to study abroad, which I'm probably going to mention before the end of this session. And I'm currently a student teacher in a third grade classroom.
Thank you, Emily. And then over to our other current student, James.
Hi, everyone. My name is James. I'm a senior here at UMass, double majoring in environmental science and biology, and also pursuing a certificate in marine and coastal sciences. In-state student. I'm originally from Millis, Massachusetts. And I'm also involved in some lab work here on campus, kind of along those lines of environmental research and fisheries especially. So I'm in a fish lab, and I've actually got to do some summer internships through that lab as well, kind of on the collection side of that research. Super excited to have you guys here. I'm really excited to get into the panel discussion.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So let's jump right into it with our first question, which is, based on your experience, why would you advise a student or family member to choose UMass Amherst? And let's start with Gina on this question.
I would advise it based on probably one simple concept, that there's an array of opportunities at UMass Amherst. My daughter, as I said, she's a sophomore. When she was a freshman, was in the College of Natural Sciences, undeclared, decided she didn't really want to stay there, switched to communications, and it's been a pretty seamless transition. Obviously, she did it after her freshman year, but there's opportunities for everybody. You can change lanes, you can follow your heart if the original decision isn't the way to go. So definitely choices.
I can definitely corroborate that by the fact that I changed my major 1, 2, 3, 4 times while I was at UMass Amherst. And honestly, the hardest part about it was going to buildings that were far away from each other on campus to get signatures. It was very simple. So yeah, I agree. Great way to start us off. Aninda, what would you add in terms of advising a student or family member to choose UMass?
Yeah. So when I saw your polling, the fourth polling question, right, and one of the most popular was that such a create diverse environment, right? So I feel that the kind of diversity that the university supports, the students themselves, they support, right? International students. And I have met so many friends of my son, right? And who have traveled from outside, and they feel so welcomed over here. They know how to navigate through the university, get settled down, right? And be successful. So I feel the cultural diversity that UMass brings in is fantastic. So that's what I want to share.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing your perspective on that. I know that's a really important factor to many families.
Correct.
Bernadette, how about you?
Well, for me, what I've heard for feedback from our daughters is the high level of customization for their academic experiences at UMass Amherst, being able to design your own major if you decide to do that, having the opportunity to minor. And the exchange program, both domestic and global, has been a spectacular resource for our daughters so far as they investigate it. So they have even more access to other classes through that program to enhance their academic experience. And then just sort of boots on the ground on campus, they don't feel like they're going to outgrow UMass Amherst, that they're going to grow into it. And that's the beauty of being at a large university. That's a real plus.
That's a great way of putting it. Thank you. James, what would you add from the perspective of a current UMass student?
Definitely. So I would definitely second kind of the academic in-class portion, but I think what also makes it really special is the opportunities outside of the classroom. So there are so many awesome ways to get involved with research and internships. The clubs here, there's so many different types of clubs. My personal favorite is the outing club, which I'm a member of. So through those kinds of opportunities, I've got to try so many different things, meet so many different people, and they really extend just kind of the learning and the networking, and everything goes so far beyond the classroom as well. I've gone on some cool field trips and all these kind of things that, just happen a lot more outside the classroom as well.
Awesome. Thank you, James. So the next question that we have is, how has your students' experience at UMass been so far, or how was their experience if they have graduated? And let's start with Andrew on this question.
My son Joseph had an incredible experience there. It felt like a small school, even though it's a lot of people. He graduated in 3.5 years, which was kind of nice. He joined a frat, working on getting a job. UMass really challenged him and really helped him learn who he was and what he could accomplish. He was a little boy in high school, so he was just like, all right, I'm going in. And he went in and took full advantage of this university. Highly recommended. I mean, I have 3 boys. They all went to different colleges, but he's just doesn't want to leave. He's still there right now because he's not leaving yet.
Well, believe me, I can relate with that
Mm-hmm.
because it's 10 years later and I'm still here too.
Lucky you.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Andrew. And Bernadette, how have your daughters, Bridget and Jesse's experiences been?
It's been empowering, Julia. Just having such a wonderful space to live in. I will say I hear a lot about how the food is fantastic. I get food pics all the time of all the delicious meals that they're enjoying. And both daughters have on-campus jobs. And that has been spectacular. They're very easily accessible. It's not a long walk to get to their jobs. And it's been empowering, and they've been able to balance that with their academics and make money, and then meet another social group of students on campus. And they're really thriving.
Awesome. That's so good to hear. Thank you. Amelia, can you tell us how your experience was during your time here at UMass Amherst?
I had the best 3 years of my life because I ended up graduating early. What brought me to UMass was like the culture. I wanted to be part of like a big school that felt small. So I'm glad everybody else is talking about that. And I had so many opportunities at UMass. So I got to design my own major. I got to work on campus. I worked for the Student Legal Services Office. So I got to work there basically full time for 12 credits. So I basically worked a real job for a whole semester. I got to work for the Collegian. I got to do reporting for women's lacrosse, which was really cool, learning all about how that works. So that on the ground experience and then take classes at the different colleges. So I took classes at Mount Holyoke, Amherst, and it was just overall just an amazing experience. And also the food is just amazing. My mom's a chef, so for me that was a big thing, having a school that had good food. So I'm glad it's still good.
That is a real testament to the food if someone who's the daughter of a chef is saying it's really that good. Awesome, thank you. And Emily, can you talk a bit about how your experience has been during your time here at UMass Amherst?
Yeah, of course. It's been interesting in my senior spring to reflect back on my time at UMass and take a look at all of the things I've been able to do in a relatively short amount of time, and a lot of things that I'm really proud of. But I think one major theme that I take away is that I was able to do all the things that I had hoped to do. I wanted to be a classroom teacher since I was a kid, and I still really want to do that. And I'll have my Massachusetts teaching license in 1 month, and I'm in a classroom 5 days a week right now. And so that's kind of a dream come true for me. The kids call me Miss Emily, and my wall right now is covered in artwork from them, which is so sweet. But also I'm pursuing a Spanish double major, and I was able to study Spanish in a flamenco school in southern Spain for 3 months. And that's something I never envisioned for myself. I never thought I'd be able to afford it. I never really was that interested in Spanish in high school. And then I came here and I just was exposed to all new opportunities academically, socially, extracurricularly. So I'm really proud of my decision to come here and the things I've done. And I would say my experience has been overwhelmingly positive, and I think my parents would say the same thing. I come home with stories and they're like, what are you doing? What did you, flamenco school? But it's been great.
Great, thank you so much. So for the next question, we would love to hear from everybody on this one about your words of wisdom for a family member or a student about the college decision process. Obviously, the people joining us today are right in the thick of that, deciding where that next step will take them. So let's start back with Andrew. What advice do you have for our audience today?
Wow. Well, I'm coming from a kid who decided, I think the due date was May 1st. I think he waited till April 30th at midnight to tell us where he was going. I'm not going to lie, the college process is really exciting. And it also sucks at the same time because you're out there, you're looking at all the schools. You're only on the school for a couple hours or a day. How do you know which is right? And my best advice is let your son or daughter navigate it, let them bounce the ideas off of you. But when they go on a campus, I mean, I bit my tongue so many times when I go to a campus, I'm like, oh God, he can't go here. But you don't want to be the one to say it. And in the end, they ended up coming back and saying, you know what, this school is not for me. And when they went to UMass the first time and the last time, both times he came back and said, I'm going there. And, so far, each one of my kids found a school where they walked into and they were like, this is it. So I'm 3 for 3, and you guys will do the same thing. It really is. You'll feel it. You'll just talk to the students on campus. I mean, we looked at a school where they said, I asked 3 students, they said it sucks. So listen to the students. It really is true. It's horrible, but listen to the students on campus. No one at UMass is going to say that. They're going to love the school. I haven't met anyone who has anything really bad to say, from the food to the size to the campus. It's a great school, and you'll see it. Just go for the day, come for a couple hours, really enjoy it, and enjoy the process. It goes quick. I mean, 4 years is done, and we're almost out. It's bizarre. So enjoy it.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. And I totally agree. That's been my experience as well. When I used to work for the first year admissions team and going out to college fairs, people would always come up to my table and say, oh, my cousin goes there, they love it. Or I went there and I loved it. Like, people are so positive about UMass. And you can really feel that like school spirit when you're here on campus. And even if you're not able to come join us in person, like, as I said, I'm going to share contact info and ways that you can keep in touch and like even have one-on-one conversations with a current student or something like that. We'd be happy to provide that. Aninda, what advice would you offer for our audience?
Yes, so my advice is very simple. I think your kids have gone through a fantastic years of high school and elementary school, right? This is a completely new environment and new life, right? So let them enjoy, right? They will figure out, okay, they will know, okay, what is good for them. And of course, we as parents, we need to stand by them, hear them, as Andrew was saying, and I think everybody says, right, we need to hear them and say, okay, give the right advices, but they need to navigate through the system. Don't worry about the majors and things, they can change it, right? they know the best, and we need to be them. And again, all the students who are there, if you're just come here, enjoy, write, study hard, study well. I think you will do great.
Awesome, thank you. How about you, Bernadette?
Well, for our daughters, it was sort of interesting. You hear stories about students who walk a campus tour and they feel it in their bones, like this is the place for me. So COVID kind of complicated that sort of storybook experience with tours. So my hat is off to UMass Amherst for navigating that and using technology to make sure that parents and students got all the information they needed to help make that decision a little bit easier to make. And so for our daughters, to make my explanation a little bit longer, they didn't have that sort of, wow, this is the school for me. A lot of schools were interesting to them. And UMass was absolutely one of the top schools they were interested in, and they felt overwhelmed. I'm not sure, how am I going to make this decision in this sort of unique place and time on the planet? And we just did a lot of pros and cons lists. And again, we weren't overpowering them or weren't sort of on top of them. They did it in their own space. But when we kept doing these pros and cons lists, UMass Amherst always came out on top. And so when you really reflect on it in that way, it just made it the obvious choice for both of our daughters. And now that they are there, the pros and cons list is proving true. So that just sort of reinforces that they made the right decision for them. And I'm thrilled because they're 2 hours away and it's really fun to visit Amherst. I think it is a postcard college town. I love all of the beautiful architecture on campus. I'm a creative person. So I think there's a wow factor. I really enjoy walking around there. And now that I'm there and they're in, you do have that feeling in your gut, like, wow, this is the right place for us.
Awesome, that's so nice to hear. And I'm definitely glad to hear that the pros and cons like kind of came true. And I often use, the fact that our retention rate from first year to sophomore year is very, very strong. It's like about 95%. And I feel like that and what you just shared really speaks to the fact that UMass Amherst does represent itself correctly. Like what you see is what you get. Like this is, the real UMass. And I think that can be helpful for people like, again, who might be on this call who aren't able to come to campus, just to hear that validation, like your ideas about UMass are right. And the experience kind of matches what people are hoping to get out of it. So thank you for sharing that. Gina, what advice would you have at this point?
Well, unlike Bernadette's two kids, we toured all the UMasses, Lowell, Dartmouth, Amherst. We all went all the way out to MCLA, and my kid had no clue. Big, small, she didn't know. No pros and cons list was going to help my daughter narrow this down. We physically got out of the car the day of the tour. She shut the door and her eyes just went pop. And I just stood there. I'm like, well, I know where we're going. There was nothing I could do. So I guess my only advice is it may be frustrating. The process with my older daughter, I love her dearly, was frustrating. She just, we like I said, she couldn't decide. But as soon as she knew I just stepped back. I'm like, well, she's going to know. She knows when she knows. So trust your gut that your kid, that they know. Even if they can't express it, trust them that they know that they're going to know it when they see it. So, and my kid, she toured all these places pre-COVID shutdown. So we had that slight advantage. But like I said, eyes just lit up. We walked the campus, we got in the car, and I had to say nothing the whole ride home. We just drove and listened to music, and I texted my husband. I'm like, this is it, done. That was the only text I sent, and I knew it. So.
Wow, what a great feeling, and a really nice memory too. I can just picture that, driving home, listening to music, going, okay, we did it, we found it.
Like, check, done. Yeah. Thank you.
That's great. Okay, cool. Amelia, what advice would you offer for our audience today?
I'm gonna, second everything that everybody has said so far. I was very much like Andrew's son. I think I put down my money or acceptance 2 days before the deadline. And when I was looking at colleges, I had this thing in mind, like urban school. Like, I don't want to be on a college campus. I want to be in the city. But I had that feeling when I went to UMass where I said, like, wait, this isn't what I thought I wanted, but like, I think it is what I want. And I guess that's one of my pieces of advice. And then I think my second piece of advice is for the parents, for you to tell your students that like let the parents ask questions, because I would get so embarrassed on the tours when my mom would become best friends with the tour guide on every single tour. And I would always be like, stop talking to them, mom. But she would then have this huge list of information of questions that I would have never thought to ask or even thought about, because I was more concerned with like, the feeling and things like that. But there are like real pros and cons that go into the college admissions process. So tell your kids to like cut them a break, because afterwards I was like, wait, my mom really had my back there. And she knew I was going to pick UMass, but I actually thought she wanted me to go somewhere else. But they never said anything. And so when I made the decision and when I told them, they said, oh yeah, we already knew. So it's nice to have that kind of experience. So those are my two little pieces of advice.
That's perfect. Thank you. And I'm sure there's many parents in the audience that will appreciate that, that sentiment. Hey, we have valid questions to ask here. Emily, what advice do you have to offer?
Yeah, I've been thinking as everyone's talking about their experiences with their children about how stressed I was when I had to choose a college, and I felt so much pressure from all different directions. And I remember feeling like it was this is the most important decision of my life. And it definitely is important for yourself personally and professionally and financially. And it's not to be taken lightly, but I also felt like the world was ending if I was going to choose the wrong school for me. And as I reflect back on that, I take away a couple of things. The first would be that there are many resources at a big school like UMass to support you in that transition, which can be challenging coming to school, but also to make a change. If you pick a major and you didn't like it, you can pick something else. And if you live in one section of campus, but you find it's really not for you, you can live in another section of campus. And there's 330 plus student clubs and organizations for you to try out and make friends and mingle with people from all over the world. And similarly, there are resources too to help you feel more comfortable and just aid in that transition. So I think just what I take away from that and speaking to all of you is to kind of believe that it'll work out. And I know that sounds cheesy and hard to believe at this stage, but you can make a change if you're not happy with whatever's going on in your first couple semesters, but also give it time to sort itself out and make friends and feel more comfortable in the place where you choose to go.
Thank you, Emily. And last but not least, James, what advice do you have to wrap us up on this question?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess everybody's given such great answers, but to try and add something new, a kind of new spin, I would say definitely think long-term and leave yourself a little wiggle room, because you are obviously coming fresh out of high school. You're going to be a very different person even by sophomore year of college. And my senior year of high school, I was convinced that I wanted to be a doctor and go to med school. And then I took a little gap year after high school, right before I started at UMass, and immediately realized that is not for me. I want a job that gets me outside. I want to work with the environment. I'm still really interested in that science, but I certainly don't want to do it in kind of a medical sense. So that's why I guess the advice translating over to a college, again, is pick somewhere where you have that wiggle room, somewhere with a lot of opportunities, somewhere where you can kind of feel free to explore things, change your mind a little bit. And so think about a college that sort of sets you up for that long term. In a similar vein, you are going to be there for a while. You're going to be there for 4 years probably. So think long term. Think, is this somewhere where I will be comfortable? Another thing, coming right out of college or coming right out of high school, I was convinced I wanted to move to Edinburgh, Scotland and be there for 4 years. Again, immediately found out that no, that's not for me. I would love to visit. I love going, but I love being able to drive home for a weekend. I love to see my friends at their other colleges, going home for Easter, going home for Thanksgiving, those sorts of little things. When, I'm cooped up at home in high school, I was from a very small town. Those aren't things that I necessarily thought I'd want. But once you kind of move away, you really quickly realize how much those kind of things can matter. So again, sort of thinking long-term, thinking about that wiggle room, and kind of realizing that priorities can change, and setting yourself up for a comfortable transition and those kinds of options can really go a long way.
Thank you, James. And personally, as your boss, I can say I'm glad you ended up here and not in Edinburgh. Thank you so much, everybody, for offering your advice. We got a lot of great perspectives and different things to think about. Since we do have a few more minutes before we bring Rose on, I'm just going to ask Emily, James, and Amelia one more question. We touched upon this in many different ways, but what were the deciding factors that made you choose UMass? Or maybe could you tell us about the moment that you chose UMass? Like in the end, how did you end up here? And we'll start with Amelia on this.
So yeah, I alluded to it a little bit, but I think a huge thing for me was that I was really nervous about UMass being a state school because I'm not from Massachusetts. So I thought, am I going to fit in there? Is this going to work for me? And UMass did a lot of heavy recruiting of out-of-state students, so they made me feel very welcome. I received a scholarship that put me to in-state tuition. It was actually like just much more affordable for me to come to UMass. So that was something to be, transparent about. I had lived in Pennsylvania my whole life. I wanted something new. I wanted something different. And without being, in Edinburgh, Scotland, or my father's Dutch, so I could have gone to the Netherlands, but a little too far for me. And I think the campus was it's gorgeous. And the Honors College was a huge pull for me as well. So like writing a thesis, conducting research, having those experiences as an undergrad is huge. And I knew I wanted to go to law school. So having different majors to choose from, different opportunities to kind of gather experience, then prepare my applications was huge for me. And I wanted to have a school where I felt comfortable doing those things and also having like sports, because I'm a huge hockey fan, huge football person. So having those and having really great teams, probably better right after I left, but we still had pretty good hockey when I was there. So that was always really, really fun. So those were like some of my reasons why I chose UMass, and it was the best decision of my life. It kind of just hit me like I think it was probably like 11 p.m. and I had my pros cons list, and I don't know, something in my gut was just said, yep, it's UMass. Walked down the stairs, my parents turned around and I said, yeah, it's UMass. And they said, we knew. So that was it.
Awesome. Thank you, Amelia. How about you, Emily?
In all honesty, I dragged my feet a little bit about touring UMass because my mom had come here and I knew a fair amount of people from my high school that had come here. And I just had this impression without even visiting or doing any research that it wasn't the place for me. But I did come on a tour, and my tune immediately changed when I met the tour guide, who was he was like the president of the comedy troupe at UMass at the time. So he was really funny and cool, and he was wearing a cat sweatshirt. And I was like, wow, this seems pretty, like people here seem pretty cool and fun. And I walked around campus, and the generalizations that I had made previously were all faded away because I was able to see just by walking around and observing people switch classes and whatnot, that there's not really one type of UMass student. There's not like this cookie cutter, like this is the great this is a great place for this type of student. It's like people here have so many interests and from so many different places. Socially, academically, it's just a really diverse campus. And I could then see myself fitting in that way. I felt like I could see myself walking from class to class and finding friends. And I was excited to hear about what the tour guide had to share. I also came on a beautiful spring day, and I was like, this is the most beautiful place there ever was. And I was really excited to put down my deposit. And I think, to echo something that Amelia just shared, is that UMass was the best financial option for me as well, which I knew going into the tour. I think it's part of the reason I felt like I should tour. And that's not the reason I came to UMass, but that's a great bonus for me. And it's something that I really am grateful for now after 4 years of coming here and looking ahead to post-grad options. I feel really solid in that decision. And so it just was happy for me that the best financial option and my absolute first choice lined up in that way. But that's why I chose UMass.
Thanks, Emily. The same thing happened to me, and I think both myself and my parents were really happy that they sort of lined up in that way. And James, how about you? Why did you end up choosing UMass in the end?
Yeah, for sure. So I think similar to Emily, I'm an in-state student. So, I know tons of people who went to UMass. From my graduating class, there's always a few. And I think that was part of the reason that was kind of giving me those preconceived notions of, I need something new, I need something different, I got to get away. But then kind of when I came to tour UMass, I realized you can have all those benefits, you can do something new. It really does feel like you're getting away. But you still kind of have all the comforts of that in-state school, or if you're not in state, you still kind of get those awesome benefits. There's a huge variety of things you can do here. So I think just having so many students means there's so many people interested in so many different things. So the student clubs and activities, when I kind of heard about some of the things you could do, saw some of the clubs. I remember on my tour, I saw some clubs tabling and kind of like yelling and all that stuff. And right away I was like, ooh, that sounds really interesting. I'd like to get involved in that. So again, super small high school that I graduated from. I only had 87 kids in my graduating class. So we didn't really field many sports teams. We didn't have any clubs to speak of. I was seeing the same faces from kindergarten to 12th grade. So I wanted that kind of big school experience where you can try anything you want. They have the resources, they have the interest, they have the facilities to kind of just field all of that. So when I came and actually saw that, I realized, well, this is not just simply UMass where everybody goes. This is something completely new, completely different. And I could not only kind of find a home here, but also find out a lot of new stuff about myself too, which I would say I definitely have over the course of my 4 years here.
Great, thank you so much. And thanks to all of our panelists. We're going to shortly turn it over to Rose Boulay to hear a bit more about the Office of Parent Services and summer family orientation. So I just want to take a moment to thank again all of our panelists, Bernadette, Andrew, James, Emily, Gina, Aninda, and Amelia. It was so wonderful to hear all of your different perspectives. And to those who are current students or have students currently at UMass, we're wishing you guys all the best with your continued studies. And with that, I would love to welcome Rose Boulay. Again, Rose is the director of the Office of Parent Services. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, and Rose is going to walk us through a bit more about her role and, as I said, Office of Parent Services and things to look forward to coming up. So hello, Rose, over to you.
Thank you so much, Julia, for hosting this event and inviting the advisory council members to share their experience with prospective families, and also for having OPS here as well. We truly appreciate the invite, and also really hope that families, they got something out of it. I wish I could go back to school and experience it the way that our students are experiencing it now. It's truly an honor to be at UMass. My name is Rose Boulay, and I oversee the Office of Parent Services. On behalf of the office, I would like to congratulate our families for their students' acceptance into the university. As everyone has said earlier, it is a great university, and you as well will have the support that you need over here as well, because we know some of you may be worried about your students enrolling in a big university or out of state and things like that. And you might have some concerns about what happens at UMass, or who do I contact, for example, if I need anything. So this is what the Office of Parent Services is for. We partner with other families just to make sure that we are sharing information with you on a regular basis. We are letting you know what's going on campus. We're giving you tips and things like that to get yourself ready to help your student transition as they are enrolling at the university. We are a small office, and our main goal is to partner with families of undergraduate students to support student success. Once your student is enrolled at the university, they are in the driver's seat, I would say, while they will need you to listen to them and to give them some support and things like that. They will make their own decisions, and we want them to be able to be the one advocating for themselves and looking for what they need because we treasure their development. But at the same time, we understand that you are a big part of their lives, and you need to know when things are happening. You need to know how to help them, and you need to help them financially as well. So we would want to partner with you to make sure that you can continue to support your student. We serve as your first point of contact for information sharing. We communicate with families on a regular basis through social media and via monthly newsletters to help families connect with with university resources. We offer, as Jules said, Family Ready for the U, which commonly known as orientation in the summer and also in the winter. And through Family Ready for the U, you learn about university expectations, you learn about living responsibly on campus, academics, how to help your students succeed and things like that. Ready for the U is in the summer, starting June and July. They will be either on Mondays and Tuesdays or Thursdays and Fridays. We have 2-day programs, and we also have an online version as well for families who are unable to come to campus during the summer. We also host a new family welcome to the U during moving day and family weekend in the fall, and then also host webinar series during the academic year. We have a wonderful website full of information, and we also oversee the Parent Advisory Council, which consists of 30 families, and you've heard from a few of them today. The major role of the Advisory Council is to advise the Office of Parent Services on services and resources that they think would be beneficial for families of undergraduate students. They also volunteer with us on a regular basis at sponsored events such as this one. You can learn more about the Advisory Council on our website and via the Family Facebook group, which you can join once your student makes their final decision to attend the university. As your student go through the transition process, as I said earlier, we are your first point of contact for anything and everything. So feel free to contact us if you have questions or concern. Again, thank you for listening, and we look forward to you attending Ready for the U this summer. Should your student decide to attend this great university, information about Ready for the U will be available very soon at www.umass.edu/new student. And I'll put the link in the chat for you as well. Again, thank you. And now I'll turn it over to Jules.
Thank you so much, Rose. Thank you for joining us this afternoon and for all that you do for the university. It's great to have you with us. And I know that our audience really appreciates the information on all of the different resources and supports that they'll have in their role during their students' time at UMass. So hopefully everybody has had a chance to take a look at that contact information on the screen. As I mentioned, this is going to be recorded. So it is, being recorded and will be posted. So don't worry if you weren't able to capture it, you'll definitely be able to find that information and keep in touch with Rose and her team as needed. So from my end, I also want to say thank you very much to everybody who's joined us for this session today, for your time and energy and engagement. We are really hoping that your student will choose UMass Amherst and be joining us in the fall. So to that end, I want to point out here on the screen a couple of next steps to be aware of. As you can see there on the screen, the FAFSA deadline was on March 1st, so that's already passed. But if you did not apply for federal aid through the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, reach out to our financial aid office to see if there is an opportunity for you to still file and perhaps receive some federal aid. As several parents mentioned, and Amelia as well, the deadline is May 1st. So it's totally fine to pay your deposit and make a decision on April 30th. Just make sure that you do so by May 1st, and that is the national decision deadline. And of course, we do have all of that excellent new student orientation and transition programming. Your student will, once your student has enrolled, they'll be sent information at their email address about signing up for those programs. They'll also have the opportunity to submit housing preferences. So don't worry, you're not behind. You have not missed anything when it comes to housing. That application will open in June, and all of our enrolled students will receive information on how to do that. And then, of course, after your student graduates from high school, we will eventually need to get those final transcripts from them. So those will be due over the summer on July 1st. And this, of course, is not the only reminder that you'll get on all of these items, but just as you're thinking ahead about the next few months, those are some points to keep in mind. And here on the screen now, you can see some different opportunities to stay connected with our office, the Office of Enrollment Management. We have a Facebook group. Well, we have a Facebook page for the admissions office, and then similar to the Facebook group for parents that Rose was mentioning, we do have a group for our admitted students, so you don't have to be enrolled for your student to join that. That's a great way to ask questions and meet people, maybe even a potential roommate, and that's the official UMass 2026 Facebook group. You can see on the screen there our Twitter, Instagram, a bit.ly link to some of our YouTube videos on different admissions and enrollment topics, and our TikTok, which is relatively new, and we would love to have students check that out. And we're looking to grow our follower count on TikTok, so I've heard, so check this out. And you can also see some email addresses that could be helpful if you do have questions following today's presentation or as you go through this process over the next few months. Our mail@admissions.umass.edu goes right to our first year admissions counselors, actually all of our admissions counselors, so first year and transfer, as well as counselors specifically dedicated to our international applicants. And we also do have, as you can see there, one that you can go directly to international team, but either way will get you where you need to go. And then if you'd like to continue the conversation with current students like Emily and James, feel free to email us at tours@admissions.umass.edu. Again, this could be a great opportunity, especially I think personally for those who aren't able to come to campus, to really connect with a tour guide and hear more about their experience, especially let's say if you have a student who's from a certain country or a certain state, or is interested in a particular major or has a particular identity that they really want to hear about from a student who shares that identity, background, or interest, reach out to us and we'll see what we can do to connect you and your family with somebody that can share their experience in those areas. So again, thank you so much to everybody for joining us. We truly appreciate you being here, taking the time out of your day, and I hope that this has been valuable and fun. It has definitely been a fun opportunity to MC and hear from all of our panelists and Rose. So I hope everybody has a great rest of the day and go UMass, especially go UMass men's hockey. We're all having fun sort of watching that journey unfold again. So thanks everybody. Take care.